Welcome to a new episode of These Go to 11. Let's turn it up. Hey everybody, welcome back to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. This not only helps us to get our content out there, but also helps us to find out what you, our faithful listeners, think. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sparta.
Dude, I was not ready. I love it. I wish I had a cool line.
This is not Sparta. This is These Go to 11. My name is Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what is going on, man?
Dude, do I get to be one of the 300?
Yes.
Because I may have gotten the reference.
Ooh, good.
A second late, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah.
That's right. 300. This is our 300th episode that we are releasing, and we are so excited to have you all with us and participating in this with us. Greg, we are going to be taking a trip down memory lane.
I can't wait.
Behind the scenes.
It's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place, dude. The behind the scenes, dude, we are either going to engage the audience so much or nobody will ever listen to us again. So it's high risk, high reward.
That's right.
We're hoping for the reward. Dude, I'll give you a technical thing. Blowing up in my ears right now, which is cool, but when something is loud for me, that's much better.
There you go.
If it's there. You know it's loud.
That's right.
I'm deaf. Dude, and that's why I talk so loudly. Yeah, this is going to be fun, dude. We had lunch before this.
Yes.
So, yeah, we catching up on life and everything. But I'm thinking about things I didn't even plan on saying.
Yeah.
So, buckle up.
Yeah.
See where this goes.
Man, 300 episodes later, all the things that we have talked about, the guests that we have had on, we mentioned some of those when we did our requill.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that we don't mention. If we were a little bit, maybe we'll do this, Greg. When we get to our 500th episode,
there we go.
Another 200. We will go ahead and we will be smart enough and tech savvy enough to drop in some clips from our previous episodes, to drop in some of those things that we cut out from our previous episodes. But today we're just going to talk about some of those things.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, we have some things that we wish we'd recorded.
Yeah.
Because how many times, dude, did we have this kind of spontaneous post-recording discussion with each other or with a guest?
Yep.
And we thought, why didn't we do this?
Why didn't we keep it rolling? Why did we shut off the recording? Yeah.
And, when you're going another hour, 2 hours beyond the recording because the conversation's so engaging. But I've heard a lot of people that do podcasting that talk about that. Like, in a sense, dude, every podcaster, no matter how much planning, I think this is true for everything. I mean, I'd say at church services as well. There's a certain extent you plan as you should.
Yeah.
Prepare as you should. You're also trying to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
And there are times when, and I always, my analogy on that, dude, how many times you have this amazing spontaneous day with friends.
Yes.
It kind of came about by happenstance, and then everybody says this is the best day, and then you try to recreate it a year later.
Yeah.
And it might be nice, but it's not the
same.
It's
not the same. Yeah.
You caught the lightning that day, and
isn't it the expectation, right? It's like a movie.
Yeah.
You go and see a movie that you had no expectations for, and all of a sudden that movie becomes one of the best things that you've ever seen. And really, there's no justification except for the fact that you had no expectation for it.
Dude, I always talk about Shawshank.
Yeah.
And I won't say much because we're going to do a movie thing soon enough.
Yep.
We probably won't talk about that when we've done that in the past. I want to say November 94.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it, it's a sweet time. Lisa and I have been married for, 4 months at that point. We got married in August. And I just remember one night we went over to the Towson Theater.
Yep.
Kind of on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a Friday night, and there weren't that many people there. The movie, remember, was not as big when it came out as it became.
Right.
But, dude, I knew it was a Stephen King short story, and one of the ones I had not read. I normally like to read it first, but I thought, oh, okay. Tim Robbins, I've seen the guy in some things. Morgan Freeman's always good. But I really went with almost no expectations.
Yeah.
And I still think I would have loved it if they were high.
Yep.
But there's something special when something ambushes you.
Yes.
And isn't that one of C.S. Lewis's autobiographical, Surprised by Grace?
Yes. Yeah.
There's this moment, and I feel it, dude, sometimes when we're podcasting.
Yeah.
Now, it's subjective, where I feel like, man, we are in this great moment.
Yeah.
The guest or you or notice not me, it's rarely me, is making a really compelling point or asking a really probing question. And, it's the old emoji, the mind-blown emoji.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, wow. And that's the lightning that you
Yes.
catch. And, dude, sometimes you don't do it. You have a fair discussion. You feel like your points are good. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And there's no podcast or interview or anything in the world that hasn't experienced.
Yes. Well, and you talk about the moments that we wish we had recorded, and I'm in my mind thinking about the moments that we recorded.
Yes.
That there may have been an issue or two with the battery and the recording that never came to light. And that may have happened on multiple occasions.
Wasn't there one dude where dear friend Dave Shive, who was with us in the early going of the podcast, I feel like he was on one where we had a bunch of other guests, maybe Matt and Steve Hartland were all crammed in there. And we were talking, and it was great. And then you were like, guys... and I was like, oh, no, don't say it, dude. Don't say it. This thing did not take.
Yes.
And
that was in the very early days of us doing that. You are correct. So there was that. I can remember the one with Zach Bartles and Nathan Bartleball where we were doing Stranger Things. I believe it was season 2 or 3. It might have been season 3.
Yeah.
I think it was season 3. We were doing a review on that. And that has never come to light. So if you were wondering why we don't have a review of Stranger Things season 3, it is because we recorded. Well, we thought we recorded, and that did not happen.
Dude,
it got lost.
I have an answer for that one.
Yeah,
it's because you had Zach Bartles on, and so I'm just saying, Zach. Sometimes. To go back to last month's theme, the Holy Spirit steps in and says, I got to silence this now. So, no, I'm setting up Zach friendly because I know, dude, we're going to have a future episode where Zach and I spar a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is great because I respect Zach. I think Zach is a wonderful man, wonderful brother. I can tell there's sometimes we do not line up on a couple of things. So why not talk about them?
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
And that's a comment that I have heard really with all of the guests that we have had on. It's like you guys seem to agree and line up so much on so many different things.
People say that about you and me all the time, and it's it's true. We rarely disagree, or if we disagree, it tends to be more a question of emphasis or accent than kind. So but hey, we're not going to force a disagreement. No. I'm not Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp here. That's a sports reference. Then,
thanks for clarifying.
Yes, where they are, manufacturing controversies. Right. Half of that stuff is bogus. Mm-hmm. I bet neither of them even cares about what they're arguing. But hey, you
controversy sells.
Yeah, it does sell. You go pro, you go con. I mean, I can tell, dude, looking back at our sides, and I'm not saying this with any criticism of our beloved audience. The more controversial ones, can I say this on it's an unchurchy podcast, the sexier ones.
Yeah.
Of course, I can see there's more listening.
Yeah.
The one I think that we did on the Holy Spirit, the one Don't Blame the Holy Spirit as of date, which is the most critical, for lack of a better word, got more than the listens. And that's just, I get it.
Yeah.
People have so much time. This week I'm not going to do it. I'm busy. I've got 100 things going on. Oh, this one intrigues me. So, I mean, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
So,
and again, like you said, that's the nature of time. I mean, how many podcasts, books on tape at any given time are people listening to?
Well, Matt Smith listens about 35.
I know.
A day, I think. Matt would be the guy because it's unbelievable.
I know
the amount of podcasts he will consume. I nowhere near as much. Dude, I've got too much TV and movies to watch. I mean, I've got too much scripture to memorize.
Which we will be talking about that coming up. But no, that was great. So, Greg, let's go ahead and talk about our favorite recorded moments. Kind of think back. The ones that we were like, man, this was a great moment. Like you said, it's that lightning strikes moment.
Yeah.
Let you go ahead and think through that one and talk about that first.
Absolutely, dude. People are going to mock me on this one because it looks like a way to schmooze up to my lovely wife. I really liked the one we did with Elise Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
You, me, Elise Fitzpatrick calling in from, I think she lives in California. If memory serves.
Yep.
And Lisa, I remember it was a beautiful, like, early October day.
Yep.
And we were on top of it. We recorded a Christmas episode.
Yes.
Dude, for me, it was just a lot of joy because just, you know, I have such respect for Elise Fitzpatrick. I think she's a really good writer.
Yes.
A really good thinker.
Yep.
She has a lot of sharp observations. I think she knows scripture very well. And, you know, so Lisa was a little bit intimidated in that sense. Like, oh, my goodness, why are you bringing me on with Elise Fitzpatrick, this super accomplished author? And I said, well, you know, Nathan and I are, you know, we're a couple of slobs, so we're getting in there too, right? And you can get in there. She goes, oh, great, you're calling me a slob. No, I'm not, baby. You're a way too put together to be a slob. But it was just I just remember, dude, that was just a moment of personal joy.
Yeah.
I thought the insights were really compelling in that podcast. And I felt like that's one where I remember sitting back, you were sitting back, we kind of focused on kind of a woman's perspective on Christmas, motherhood, family.
Yeah. And
to hear Lisa and Elise go back, I just love that.
Yeah.
And for obviously biased reasons.
Sure.
And that's one of many that stand out. I'll shoot it back over to you.
Yeah. Actually, I think one that stands out particularly to me, and it's kind of for similar reasons, was the one we did on Pastors' Wives, where we had Matt Smith's wife, Tracy, and your wife, Lisa, on. And we were just talking from that perspective about what is it like to be the wife of a pastor. And I remember just thinking how great this was, how great this perspective was. I remember how nervous, because at that point it would have been both of their first podcasts coming on.
It was.
And I remember just how, you know, before recording, just how nervous they were. And then they got on and it was so smooth and they were so into it and really enjoyed what they were doing with that. And I thought that was, it was just one of those things where you don't know.
Yes.
On the offset, how is this going to go?
That is a great one, dude.
Yeah.
That is a really, really great one. I remember that was a favorite of Dave Shive, again, to mention. He thought Lisa and Tracy did they did a really terrific job on that one. Bounce it back to me, all the ones that these ladies guessed on. Maybe we're learning something.
I know, right? Got to have more ladies on the podcast.
And seriously, dude, we do. We let's talk about that. You know, one of the things you and I have talked about, bro, is getting back in this requel early phase.
Yes.
We just wanted to get in a rhythm. We've had some local guests. We had Justin, did a great job. Kevin Marr. We've had Matt. We haven't had, there's a number of authors that we've had in the past. I know we can get back, and, you know, that's always fun to talk to. But the one I enjoyed, too, that Tracy also joined us with was, you know, I'm going to say this.
Oh, yeah.
The Double Stephen podcast.
Yes.
Stephen Altrogi, who was the really founder of Happy Rant, which is still going. You know, Stephen's been away from that for a long time now. But Stephen Altrogi, who is, you know, he's been in ministry, he's done a lot of writing, just a very creative guy, and he's written a wonderful book on creativity. And he joined us to talk about Stephen King.
Yes, yes.
So, dude, I always love your humble posture, not reading much of the King stuff, but you recognize, hey, I'd be a fool to deny that there's an influential voice here. A lot of people read, and like, that was fun.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking that is a really fun podcast to do, and the topics were so intriguing. And I remember the thing Al Trogi said that always stood out to me, and he nailed it. I said, what is it about King? Because he just gets people.
Yeah.
Does people so well.
Yep.
When we do the one on books, here in a couple of weeks, dude, I'm going to comment. One of the books I've read, just finished, is Fairy Tale by King. And of the 50 plus I've read of King, it's more towards the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's almost like what I say about Denzel. Denzel in every movie makes that movie better.
Yep.
It could be a mid movie, as my sons would say, is mid. But he makes it better because of who he is. That's how I feel about King.
Yep.
Like, it's not the best plot. The story breaks down. But I mean, gosh, it's King. So he makes it, he does a lot better than a guy like I would. But there are some, to me, observations about humanity in that book that should come from Christian theologians. They're so on the nose.
Yeah.
And I won't bore you with that now, but we'll cover that. You got another one, dude?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the groupings that we used to do. I think we used to do these about once a year, but the fireside chats that we would do.
Oh, yeah, they were fun.
It's those deeper topics that we could talk with one another about, but it was more. Let me get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I remember we did one, The Eternal Destiny of Infants.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember, that we just decided when we were doing these fireside chat ones, it was going to be you and I.
Yep.
Because we didn't want to bring in the controversy and blow it up, but we did want to ask the questions.
Yeah.
And so I remember those were just really, really nice ones that we could kind of talk with one another about and just kind of field, okay, so here are the different views out there, but this is what I believe and this is why.
Yeah.
This is what I think Scripture speaks to. This is what I think logically Scripture talks about with these things.
Yeah.
And so I felt like those ones were just gold for us.
Yeah.
Because they were just, these topics that were so prevalent and so deep and so important. How do we handle those with people?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, those ones. And again, I mean, I think we took a month. I think it was usually June.
Yeah.
We did a month of fireside chat topics that we would do. So
even though that seems like a winter time.
Yeah.
We said, hey, June's warm.
Yeah.
So think of a fire.
That's right.
And you could still put on a fire in June, right? You can do it any time of the year. I remember those, dude. I really enjoyed those as well. Let me give you another, dude, that's just popping into my head now. These are some of I wasn't even going to share these ones, but I'm not saying it for sake of controversy.
Sure.
I think our most downloaded episode ever is when we had Tully and Shavichian.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And let me just say about that one, Tullian, whatever people think of Tullian, his insights, pure gold, have been very influential thinker in my own sort of theological outlook.
Yep.
I just think is that rare voice that really gets the gospel in its deep, abiding. It's funny, the day we're recording this, dude, I preached on Jesus as a friend of sinners.
Yes. Yeah.
In Mark, and my mind always kind of goes to some of those insights that Tullian shares. I liked that he said the people that really stood by me when I was a liability. I had nothing to give them. Now, the context of that podcast, I think what we learned is Tullian's story and some of the complexity was ongoing.
Yes.
It's always like that, I understand, in a true kind of 30,000 foot view sense. Our lives are always ongoing. But some of the particulars that dealt with allegations and those things, we didn't know at the time, but they were ongoing.
Yeah.
So we issued some statements after that. But the episode itself,
yes,
and I believe Heartland joined us for that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. You're right.
Steve, our friend Steve Heartland, who, from time to time people ask, I mean, Steve's doing so much of his own stuff now, media now, that, he's, we probably could.
Right.
But at the moment, I feel, let's leave the brother alone and let him do things.
Yeah.
But that one, I remember, was a very much listened to podcast. Obviously, Tullian's a name, when you're the grandson of Billy Graham.
Yep.
It's going to carry a little name recognition. But that really wasn't our interest.
No.
I have mad respect for Billy Graham, but that wasn't the reason.
If you remember, he actually reached out to us. We did a podcast because we were talking. There were these names that were kind of falling, which I feel like if you look back, there are always names that are falling for one reason or another. Yeah. So we did a podcast on, does it negate the things that he said?
Yes.
Does it negate the books that he wrote? Does it negate his sermons that he's preached? And we had talked about that, and actually his mother had listened to it. Out of all people, his mother listened to it and was like, passed it along to him, and he actually ended up reaching out to us.
You're exactly right, dude. Wow. I've kind of forgotten that because I've stayed connected with Tullian since that time.
Yeah.
We from time to time text. I saw him last year. Mm-hmm. I just say on a personal level, he's helped me with a number of issues of things that I struggled with. So that podcast, which, perfect world, it might have dropped it might have taken place in a different time.
Sure.
But it dropped when it did. So that's a very memorable one.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And I think, too, again, timing's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you think about, I think we've talked about this before. What would the landscape of Christian theology look like? Christian historical preachers look like if you took Martin Luther and dropped him in 2023?
Oh, my goodness.
The things that he said, the things that he did, what would that look like?
It's the ongoing struggle of the church, what to do with some of its greatest luminaries.
Yeah.
In light of modern concerns, developments, etc. Dude, like you're saying, like Luther wrote, we've talked about this before, a tract called On the Jews and Their Lies, and it's a despicable tract.
Yeah.
There's not a thing that can be commended. He calls for absurd action, which Hitler himself was aware of and referenced on an occasion or two. There have been a number of things put forward to explain.
Yeah.
There are some Lutheran scholars who know a lot more than I do that believe a case can be made that he was in the early to mid stages of senility, was near the end of his life. I find that it's always going to be hard to make a compelling case to recreate a state of a psyche centuries later. In you can try and you can guess. People said it was over radical disappointment. He had hoped initially when he rediscovered the gospel. A lot of truth in this. I think he had some hopeful naivete that, well, the medieval church is going to, oh my goodness, how did we miss this?
Right.
People are saved by faith, not by indulgences, works, etc. It didn't go that way. He was excommunicated, and of course the Reformation ensued. Many thought, well, if the Jews had converted, which is what Luther seems to have thought, the reason they haven't is because the gospel is so obscure to them. When the gloves are off and the gospel is clear and pure, and it didn't happen. There was not a mass conversion of Jewish citizens in Germany to Christ. But here's what I say, dude. You and I, that's a much easier conversation because it was 500 years ago.
Right.
Distance and time makes a big difference. We can look back at a man's contributions to Christian thinking and say, wow, been a lot of hubbub about Jonathan Edwards recently, right? He was a slave owner. Yeah. That's factual. It's historically factual. So you've got these things. But here's what I would say, dude. That's not just unique to Christendom. I mean, it's special within Christendom.
Yeah.
In literature, H.P. Lovecraft was a game changer. His style of writing, his type of kind of goth horror, extraterrestrial, interdimensional horrors were very, very compelling, and there's still a large readership. He was also pretty clearly a homophobic racist.
Right.
I mean, he had a name for his cat, I'm not going to say, but it's a derogative term, a racially derogative term. And so this comes up at this writing program I'm doing at Wilkes. This comes up. What do you do?
Right.
With authors, thinkers. So podcasters do, to take it back to us.
Yeah.
We have to make some decisions.
Yep.
I don't always know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we get it right. Ravi, we've talked about Ravi Zacharias.
Yeah.
Should Christians, in light of what's come out, burn all of his books, get rid of them?
Right.
Again, the question is easier with centuries of hindsight.
Yes. And can we just say honestly that anything that Nazi Germany practiced doing, we probably shouldn't do?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what your views are, but I don't think anywhere at all we should ever go around burning things.
Yeah, I'm not a big book burner guy either,
yeah.
dude. It's, if anything, let the record stand.
Yeah.
And let people honestly intellectually deal with the material.
Yeah.
And make the judgments that need to be made, make the points that need to be made, the responses that need to be made.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Although Matt Smith and I, in our younger years, as you know, dude,
yeah,
Matt always says he wasn't there and he wasn't at one book burning. But he was for it. And dude, I'm throwing away Stephen King books, Billy Joel albums, and all this stuff. But as Matt has said, by the grace of God, I bought them all back.
I was going to say, and aren't you annoyed with yourself because you had to spend all that money all over again?
Man, King made so much money for me twice. Dude, I think I bought The Shining 3 times. I think I bought The Shining probably in 1987, 88. I was a young Christian, and then I got, convicted because, I shouldn't be reading, burned it.
Yep.
And then, 1992, after I bought it again, burned it. But, dude, when I bought it again in 2012, I've kept it. And I'm hoping that makes it well beyond my time on this earth.
Don't want to buy another one. Oh, man. No, but again, it's so timely to just, again, when this all happened, we had a discussion with our small group because we were actually in the middle of reading.
I remember this.
His devotional book.
Ravi's, you mean?
Yeah, Ravi had just put out a devotional book, and we were in the middle of going through. Well, we were actually toward the end. We were about a month away from finishing, and so we put this call out to the community group, and we said, look, in light of everything that's going on, we want to be sensitive to those. And really, that's what it is. I want to be sensitive to those who might have gone through abuse and not be able to look at his material. And those things are difficult to separate sometimes, the person from the material and the content that they wrote. I mean, if we were going to talk about C.S. Lewis was known for being a racist, a sexist. And so can we look at the truth of what's being written apart from the sin in the person's life? And there are people who can't, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not making a judgment call. Everyone is marked by experiences in their life, and that colors how you view others. And I think it's fair to say that somebody who might be going through something like this or has gone through something like this would not be able to look at Ravi the same way, and therefore not be able to look at what he's written the same way. And I think that's fine.
Dude, completely get that. I mean, but again, another example from a different realm, but it's the exact same thing you said. Michael Jackson.
Yes.
My Lisa loved Michael Jackson's music.
Yeah.
When she watched the documentary, the Neverland. Dude, I watched some of that. You know me, I can watch just about anything. It was
twists your stomach and knots.
It did, and she actually was tougher than I was. I said, "Listen, I get it why you want to finish it," and it wasn't like a morbid fascination. It was just sort of a look dead in the eye. This story, which is so upsetting and disturbing. She really has a hard time. listening to the music now. And that's a debate among radio stations. How much airplay does it get? I mean, dude, he was the king of pop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, iconic. I mean, just albums around the world. So others deal with it. I think Christians have a very unique perspective because when we talk about this with podcasting, at one level, aren't we acknowledging, dude, that every guest, or let's expand it to the church, every sermon, if we pressed it to the nth degree, we shouldn't listen to anybody.
Right.
Because everybody's a train wreck. Right? I mean, that's our theology.
Yeah.
Our theology is that everybody is a train wreck. So there's one sense where the starting point, I just like to see the disposition to be one of, okay, what we tell young converts, maybe there was a pastor, a Christian celebrity that influenced you, and that's great.
Yeah.
Thank God for the gift of the influence. Also, be careful not to attach yourself too much because it's just a man, just a woman.
Yeah.
Clay feet, they will disappoint you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the disappointment is a wholesale scandal.
Yeah.
Ravi.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more of a local story. A pastor was unfaithful. So in that sense, dude, I'm with you. My initial reaction is not to burn or chuck, but I love what you said. I do respect the person whose experience, I know the term trigger warning can be overused, but I think there's an appropriate use of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we talk about that, dude. That's why I think when you said the fireside chats, what you're basically saying is through the years we've thought, let's issue a version of a trigger warning.
Yeah.
This is a tense subject, so let me tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to just make it sexy and controversial because, that would be really intriguing. I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's so irresponsible.
And even the tone of those is very different. When you
were.
listen to those fireside chats, the tone of how we did that was very different. There wasn't
as
a lot
much
of
joking. I
right.
remember, which
Because
is
we
hard.
It is. It is.
Yeah, but
we wanted to be very careful and very sensitive of the material we're talking about.
Yeah, infants who die, dude, we're not going to be making any
there
lighthearted
is no
comments. It's just you have to talk about it in a measured way, in a thoughtful way, in a way that you recognize many people that may be listening have lost a child.
Yeah.
Or that's their great fear of
Yes.
losing. Understandably, every parent in the world feels that way.
Yes.
So this podcasting thing we've done, dude, at first, it's easy. We'll sit in a room, shoot the breeze, and there's some of that.
Yeah.
But boy, there's a lot of decisions, second guessing, looking back. Should we? Can I talk, dude, a little bit about editing?
Yes.
We have done a good share of that.
Yes.
Even recently.
Yeah.
Where Nathan and I will normally go back and forth. I recognize, dude, right, that certain things are not worth it.
Yeah. Well, let's be real. We have boiled our podcast down to two friends having a conversation.
Yes.
And you and I will speak more freely about certain things.
Yeah.
We will give, as friends, we give more of our opinion, right? When we talk about the importance of the gospel, what is the only thing that needs to be addressed is the gospel itself. Let's make no offense other than the clear preaching of Christ crucified. That's it.
Yes.
When you and I are talking, whether it's politics, whether it's entertainment, whether it's church governance, whether it's whatever the subject is, we are people. We have thoughts and opinion on these things. So, but we understand that publicly, we don't want our thoughts and opinions to eclipse or potentially eclipse the clear message of the gospel.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are times where, as friends, we're having this conversation on the podcast, and we have to stop and remind ourselves that, wait a minute, is what I'm going to say here, or even not what I'm going to say, but the way I'm going to say it.
Sure.
Is that going to eclipse the message of the gospel?
Yeah.
Is that going to turn someone off to Christ crucified?
Yeah.
And so we have to monitor ourselves sometimes and think, did I really mean that the way it sounds as it's coming out?
Agreed. Which is why, dude, live podcasting, which we've done, and we're going to do more.
Yep.
You really got to be on point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a delay. It's not quite like a TV studio, but live podcasting where it's once it's out,
right?
And that's that. It is. I always like the thought. I'll tell you what it makes me. It makes me freer.
Yes,
knowing that we can take something out in post.
Yes.
And sometimes your point. For instance, we've had some folks on before. Great people. We love all of our guests and everybody that's come on. Those we know, those that we're honored to have on that maybe come through a publisher or something. You know me, dude. I'm not going to be a fan when the politics get in there.
Right.
Even if I may fully agree with the point they're making, I always think of, man, what if one individual person is maybe checking this out as part of their own exploration of Christianity in general?
Yeah.
Hey, my brother goes to this church. I know pastors, and they're talking about movies. I'm a movie guy. I actually might listen to that one.
Yeah.
And if in the context of that movie podcast, a guest, because, dude, I am going to say this. I don't think this will be us.
Yeah.
I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I think you and I have enough shorthand and enough agreement and resonance on this. But we might have a guest, and we're not going to control what they say, that might take a shot at a group of people. And it's often something like, these libs.
Right.
And all this. And I'm thinking, man, can we take that out? And we normally do.
Yeah.
We normally do, because I just don't want people to, what's the old expression? Throw out the baby for the bathwater. And it's not a pertinent enough point to risk eclipsing, I like your language, the gospel. So I love, dude, sometimes maybe too much, that I'm going to sit back. Well, dude, I had the Holy Spirit theme we did. That episode 3, you were such a great countercheck to me, Nathan. I'm going to say this again and again, because you know how easy it would be for me to sit here and just go off. And Lisa would say, and she's right, Matt Smith, because I'm jaded.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
That's not always a great place to be.
Sure.
I don't want the podcasting to be scratching an itch.
Yeah.
As tempting as that can be.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because you want it to serve a broader audience.
Right.
You can always find people that, I'm tired of this.
Yes.
X, Y, and Z and all that.
Well, it's like you said, the grumpy old man, get off my lawn.
It is. It's exactly right, dude. It's Gran Torino Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn. These kids today. And I could do that. There's times, I won't deny it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
But I'd rather do that over fajitas with just you.
Yeah.
And then you can listen and say, boy, Greg's heart needs to be in a better place. But that's our friendship.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's what we do. But on a podcast, I have listened to some podcasts. We had some guests on years ago.
Yeah.
Who I think, dude, I look back now, as far as I can tell, one of them for sure. This one I'm not going to say the names because I just don't want to border on false accusation. This is what I experienced. I think you might have felt it too. I now wonder, were we catching, it was 2 guests, were we catching these 2 people that were on a journey out of the faith?
Yeah.
With one of them, I'm more than 50% certain I think that's the case.
Yeah.
The other one, I'm not so much. But when I listened to them initially, when they were doing a podcast, it was interesting. But I understand it. A lot of it was just venting.
Yeah.
What is frustrating? That I don't think that is long-term sustainable.
No.
No. Because I don't think enough people are going to stay in that vent. It's satisfying for a short period of time.
Sure. But at the end of the day, right? I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced friends like this. You've got that one friend who's always complaining.
Yeah. But Nathan, I forgive you for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, wait, no, that's you forgiving me. Yeah, I forgot. Go on, yeah.
But, when you have that gets tiring. It's like, dude, isn't there anything in your life that you can be happy about?
Yeah.
Isn't there anything in your life that you can be thankful for and just say, you know what? Yeah, I've got it pretty rough, but let's be real. you live in 2023 in the United States of America.
Yes.
How about I just, kind of parachute you into, some obscure West African tribe, and you see how much better your life is than that.
Absolutely, dude. Or just even recent, let's drop you in the middle of somewhere in Ukraine.
Yeah.
In the last year. And I'm talking about myself. I mean, talk about your first world problems.
Right.
Oh, man, my internet. And dude, I have been frustrated with my internet.
Sure.
I'm paying Verizon decent money, and I never get really strong internet anymore.
Took me 10 minutes to get my McDonald's today.
So true. It's so true. But you're right. That friend who vents can be very entertaining, but not in a long term.
Sustainable, yeah.
You really can't. So I think with podcasting, I do think there needs to be some positivity, the genuine positivity. I think there has to be some proactive planning.
Yeah.
So that you're building. So we're always trying to think, how do we build? And look, part of it is we're learning. Hey, these themes really seem to resonate with people. So do we return to them?
Yeah.
Do we I'm sorry, dude, I'm hearing stuff in my ears, but I think that's just me.
Yeah.
Do we drill down on them, do a more specific topic? And sometimes yes. Sometimes you're like, boy, we thought this was going to be really important, and for whatever reason, it didn't seem to be as of great interest to people that want to listen. So what I like about our podcast is we're learning.
Yes.
We're constantly learning and assessing what might serve people well. And we can kind of tell by responses, emails, just conversations in church or elsewhere. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and, we were, talking about some of those themes with people that we've had on, which were the lightning dynamite moments. I'm thinking now of some that we've had on where it was the
polar opposite.
Yeah, it was just like wah, wah, wah.
Dude, I've got several.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I will not say names. I don't think that would be wise.
No.
But yeah.
No, but, the one that you and I keep going back to, we were talking about this earlier. It was actually one that you were unable to make.
I remember.
You had a last-minute thing come up.
Yep.
And
it was you and Heartland.
It was me and Heartland. And we went to do the recording with this person. And we got done with it and looked at one another and just said, I cannot air this.
No.
It was, and it wasn't, let me be clear, it's not that the content was bad.
No.
It's this guest did not give us content.
Dude, I know the content because I remember, I think we can say this because we've had enough.
Yeah.
It came through a publisher contact.
Yep.
And a good publisher that does some really good materials. So I think that, wow, this is intriguing. Actually, I was very excited.
Yes.
I remember feeling disappointed to miss it. Dude, let me tell you, you told me briefly, you said, Dutcher, you reached out. I was with Lisa somewhere. I'm sorry. I don't think we can air this. And I was like, I remember I first thought, come on, dude, of course we can air it. You take out a few things. And then I could tell the heaviness. Like, Greg, this was bad. And so I thought, man. So I remember a little while later, I reached out to Heartland too. And I just kind of played dumb. So I could get Heartland's fresh take on it. And I texted him, but I'll never forget. I saw the iPhone bubbles right away. I said, dude, what did you think of tonight? I did say, I think Nathan told me, maybe it wasn't best. He just wrote, sucked.
Yeah.
And so I showed Lisa, and she goes, yeah, it doesn't sound like it was a great night.
And thankfully, I mean, the publisher was very gracious. I talked with the publisher, emailed, and the publisher was just like, you know what? Sometimes we get authors who are great with their material,
great writers,
with their
great
writing,
writers, but
they just do not interview well. And so, we appreciate your feedback, and we appreciate the fact that you're willing to be honest with us to let us know that we just don't think this is going to be a good reflection and a good promotion of the material.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, dude. I was going to compliment you because it would have been easy to just, don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah.
I love that you reached out to the initial contact. You were just straight up honest. We did not vilify. There was no we. You did it all, dude. I just said, handle it, Nathan. Handle it. But you were very gracious, very honest, and I appreciated that they were very kind back, understood. I'm not sure what they told the author. That's kind of between them and that individual. But, it was just one of those things that this person was probably not necessarily meant for that platform.
Yes.
Because it's just unairable.
Yeah.
I will say, dude, I told you, I am going to name a name because it's not our podcast. And this is a man who's served countless people, believers and unbelievers alike. So I'm not, in any way, I want to be very clear. I'm not dissing this man.
Mm-hmm.
But if our listeners want to see if it's still up, or hear, I should say, an example of podcasting that probably is the wrong format for the guest, Chuck Swindoll's appearance on Carey Nieuwhof.
Yeah.
Carey Nieuwhof has a very good podcast, very popular. He's got a lot of guests. He's probably got a slightly larger platform than you and I have. Slightly.
Just a little.
Yeah, just slightly. He had Swindoll on, Chuck Swindoll, who was, I think he's well into his 80s now. Yeah. So this was some years ago. And Swindoll is a great storyteller. He's probably preached more sermons than I will ever even come to a third of writing and preaching, and I've done a lot in 25 years. But track record, faithful ministry, served many churches. He was a evangelical free church, a well-known leader for a long time, Dallas Seminary. Went on that podcast, and yikes.
Yeah.
Dude, you can tell Nieuwhof is trying to get him to converse.
Yeah, yeah.
But he went on as a preacher.
Yes.
Which is great when the podcast is featuring.
Yeah.
Hey, you could do that too with your butter voice. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Greg's Sermons. And people would just tune in to hear your intro and not the sermon. But, that's a fine format.
Yeah.
But if you have a host and the purpose is conversational.
Right.
It's kind of cringy to hear.
Yeah.
And I just think it was the wrong venue for Swindoll.
Yeah. And we've had that before. You mentioned that. Like
we've had it too.
We've had people on here before where we appreciate and love that spirit of teaching that they have, and we want them to bring that into a conversational aspect.
Yeah.
But they just can't. They're so locked into I'm teaching a lesson, let me get through my lesson.
Yep.
And it doesn't go over as well.
No, and some of that, when we've had that in the past, dude, I'm thinking of one person, I know who you're thinking of too, with a little more clear guidance, that person can get better.
Yeah.
If you say, hey, listen, in the way you kind of do that, you're gracious, Nathan, you'll send it to everybody. Hey, guys, here's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I know, because, dude, I listened to myself back on one of the Holy Spirit podcasts. And, dude, you're patient with me. I thought, man, I went way too long on that answer. It was a mini sermon. It was 7-8 minutes. And I thought, the AMA ones can be harder because some of them almost, it feels like to me, it's occupational hazard that I got to give a mini sermon to answer this one fully. But, absolutely, dude. That's where you reach out to the guest and you say, okay, hey, everybody, just want to remind you, we're going to try to do this in 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
I want to cover these 8 topics, which means try to keep your responses. I remember you writing emails like that. Very gracious. They were written to everybody, even though you only needed to write them to one. That it helped smooth that out. So it's fixable, but I honestly think, dude, I don't know this for a fact, but a man like Swindoll, who's in his 80s.
Right.
He's been doing this forever. There was no podcasting when he started. It was never something he did. It wasn't his venue. So he might be the wrong guy for that venue.
Yes.
Get him at your conference to do the keynote.
Yep.
Be fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not we learn as we go. We had another guy, dude. Yeah. You might not be thinking, so I'll try to be cryptic. He was an author.
Uh-huh.
And man, just really flat.
Oh,
it was
I do think
it was a dude.
Yeah.
And I've really benefited from his writing. Kind of a cold fish.
Yeah.
It wasn't in person. It was over Zoom or the phone or whatever, Skype. and did not really seem to. It reminds me of an old episode on the show Family Ties.
Yes.
When the father.
Yep.
What was it? What was his name? Was it Steven? Or I can't remember the father's name.
Yeah.
The actor's last name is Gross. I think it's I think it's Steven Keating.
Yeah,
I remember.
I think you might be right.
And he's meeting Nick, who is Justine Bateman's Mallory's boyfriend, and it's one of my favorites where there's so much tension because keep in mind, Keating is like the '60s hippie who's now a suburban dad in the '80s.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I'm not a big fan of this free-spirited loser that's dating my daughter.
Right.
And he becomes this much more patriarchal, conservative guy. And it's just a great setup. But he would ask Nick, he goes, so Nick, do you go to school? No. Okay. Could you elaborate on that? He's like, yeah, like when school's on, I ain't there. And of course, you see the father seething with hatred at this kid that wants to date his daughter. Sometimes it's hard, dude, if the guest feels like that.
Yeah.
You're like, well, so a lot of what you and I will try to do, and it's why we really haven't rolled out the guests yet, and I'm looking forward to looking back.
Yeah.
Who were some of our standout guests?
Yes.
You get a guy like Al Trogi on.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he's so conversational.
Yes.
He's so good. You know you're going to have a great give and take.
Yes.
With him, and it's going to be really interesting. Others, you might have to structure it a little more to get there. But,
yes.
Sometimes the person's content is so valuable.
Yes.
You'll put up with a less than stellar dynamic. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, one of the things that I think is nice is you and I having the conversations. What did you think?
Yeah.
Right. We talk about those things because I think they're valuable because, again, we do have different tastes and interests and tolerances, and so it's like, we might have a conversation where I talk to you and it's like, I don't know, what did you think? I'm not quite sure, and it's like, no, I think it's fine. I think it'll work.
Right.
And I think that helps because a lot of times, right, I'm here behind the computer and I'm focusing on time. I'm focusing on so many things. So I'm able to engage in a conversation, but there are times if you're engaging with a guest, I'm checking out so I can focus on something else.
I love that, dude. I look over at you sometimes and see you, man, you probably don't even know what we're talking about. You're trying to troubleshoot something in the moment so that the podcast is smooth and running, and I know in those moments, okay, don't bring Nathan in.
Right.
I can tell you're looking at 13 different things and trying to figure it out. And dude, as you know, it's not hard for me to run my mouth.
Right.
So there's always something I can do or some stupid anecdote that I can say. It's sort of like when we have staff meetings at church. The staff meetings at church go really well when I'm not there. Because I'll say to Matt sometimes, who leads those meetings, if I can't make it, Matt, are you guys going to get by without random movie facts, extraneous stories? It's the Steve Martin line in Planes, Trains. Here's it. When you tell one of your endless anecdotes, one of your nonstop stories, have a point.
Right.
It makes it so much more interesting for the listener. So I digress.
Oh man, no, but that's good. And then on the other hand, we have the conversation, and sometimes you'll be like, I mean, what was your impression? And it's like, yeah, I do think they went longer than they should have.
Sure.
But I mean, like you said, the content's just gold. I mean,
it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And you and I both know, dude.
Right.
We've had guests on that we're not sure about, and we'll get a really positive response.
Yes. Yeah.
So you think, great. We need to hear other voices.
Yeah.
That tell us, hey, that was what this person shared was really good.
Yes.
So that's always good.
Yeah, and I mean, isn't that true with anything? I mean, you talk about that with preaching sermons, right?
Oh, yeah.
The sermon that you think you nailed every point, every joke just hit, and every sad note, every sad story. It just it drew the tear, and it's like nothing, crickets. But then the one that you're like, man, I didn't have enough time to prepare this week. Life caught up, and and it's like that's the one where it's like, Greg, that was just the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and just thank you so much for what you do. And it's like, really?
Yeah. Dude, all the time. No, I would say I'm almost more conditioned. The ones that I feel went really well.
Yeah.
I've almost developed this counterintuitive thing now where I'm like,
right.
Because I've so often gotten positive feedback from the other ones.
Yeah.
Which I think, and again, just God's manner is just a way of keeping us close to the ground, keeping us humble. It's not us, it's always him. He's the one who does it. So, I mean, now that I teach public speaking, I do a lot of self-grading, like, okay, my introduction, I didn't establish much credibility. I could have done that. There's some metrics that I could go through and say, wow, this one hit it, but it's almost, when you're trying to assess the effect on a listener, it's almost useless sometimes. There's something that, again, that lightning in the bottle that is out of our control in many ways. We just do the best we can to maybe get in the environment where that might happen. That might be what our planning and prep does, but it's the lest the Lord builds the house.
Right.
The labor. Notice there are laborers in that story. There's many laborers.
There are people doing the work.
But there's a true building that is outside of the control of the laborers, which is true for a lot of venues in life, preaching certainly. But look, just podcasting, a public conversation. Yeah. But it's fun doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Man, time flies.
It did.
We're out of time at this point.
I loved it. That was kind of an intimate look. I hope for those of you listening, I don't know if it's of interest to you. I hope it was, or maybe a few things we said stuck. But I like what we got coming too.
Well, we want to encourage our listeners to engage with us. Facebook, Twitter, email, Instagram. Let us know what your favorite These Go to 11 moments were that you heard. We've talked about ours. We've talked about some of the behind the scenes, some of the things that we can go through in a particular season with speakers, authors, things like that. Let us know what some of your favorites are. Again, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or email us and let us know that as well. Yeah. And Greg, until the next time, we just rock the Casbah.
300th style.
Thank you again for listening to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Once again, please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you ever find yourself in the Forest Hill, Maryland area, please feel free to stop by at 135 Industry Lane, and you can get all of our service times and information at christfc.org.
These Go to 11.